Hello and welcome to the Dlr-Wiba Chamber Women in Business Alliance International Women's Day event, coming to you this year from the beautiful surroundings of Airfield House here in Dundrum. I would imagine that one of the last events many of us attended last year in real life was the lovely lunch that we had on International Women's Day in the Royal Marine Hotel. But rest assured, although this is somewhat different, coming to you virtually this year, we still have some amazing women to inspire you and to motivate you, and who I will be chatting to very, very shortly. Our hashtags today are Make It Happen 2021, and you could also use the Chamber's hashtag, which is hashtag Dlr-Chamber. I want to begin by acknowledging the support of our terrific sponsors, without whom this event just couldn't happen. But by sponsoring this event, these companies are also showing their commitment to equality and to the role of women in business. So thank you so much to Dlr-Wiba County Council, to Capital Credit Union, to the Bank of Ireland, and to RBK Accountants. The theme of our event this year, and boy do I miss the cake. We normally have a beautiful cake that illustrates the theme, but rest assured, we will be back with cake again next year. But the theme this year is Make It Happen. And we all know the cliches around hard work and being able to visualize your success that are necessary in order to make it happen. But there are other things that come into the equation as well. And I think hearing the experiences of other women and mentoring and support are very, very important in that equation, in order to make it happen. And whether that making it happen is writing a best-selling book, organizing a record-breaking fundraising event, or serial entrepreneurships, it is very important. And we have three brilliant women for you to meet today who are going to share with us how they made it happen. So make yourself cozy, make sure you're comfortable. You're going to enjoy the next 30 minutes or so. Grab yourself a cup or maybe even an old glass of wine, and let's go and meet these women.
As Cathaoirleach of Dlr-Wiba County Council, I am absolutely honoured to speak at this Women in Business Alliance event in honour of International Women's Day 2021. The Council is always delighted to help the Dlr-Wiba Chamber in any way it can, and we feel that it's really important in this year to support everyone. I have been honoured over the past year to meet with so many different and wonderful female entrepreneurs and business owners who are working locally to bring communities and business together. Their resilience, drive, and courage in the face of the overwhelming challenges of the past year have been just incredible. They are an inspiration to us all. So let's make it happen and ensure that we have women to the front and fore of our business and community lives.
So Karen, tell us, why did Capital Credit Union come on board as a sponsor of this event today?
Well, Barbara, as you know, there's great synergy between Capital Credit Union and the Dlr-Wiba Chamber, and we're particularly interested in promoting women in business.
Credit unions would traditionally have been seen as somewhere where women squirreled away money. Do women still squirrel away their money in the credit union?
Well, they do, but now things have moved on so much, and we have more than 60% of our members are women. And we're actually, just last month, we launched SME lending, and it's amazing the amount of interest we have. So I think the squirreling little amounts is not so popular anymore. It's more people are actually using the credit union for their financial purposes. And
to support a business, to support small businesses.
Yes.
That is terrific. So you're helping women to make it happen all over the county and helping them manage their money.
Yes.
So our first guest today is Monkstown woman and award-winning author of 14 best-selling novels, Sinead Moriarty. Sinead, you're very welcome. It's good to see you.
I'm very excited to be here.
Yay!
I know.
Freedom and out a little bit.
Just dressed up, high heels. My God, the excitement! Yeah, I'm speaking to somebody other than my own family. So much as I love, I'm sick of.
I know. Yeah, I know. I think we're all feeling the same. Many people, I think, who read a lot think that writing must be a great job, because you just sit down and you just have your laptop and it all just, you sit there and you write away, and the next thing you have a best-selling novel. I'm thinking it's not quite like that, is it?
No. And interesting enough, I think it's one of the few jobs that gets more difficult the longer you do it.
Oh, don't tell me that.
Well, you see, when you write your first book, there's complete freedom because there's no expectation. You don't know if it's going to be published. You don't know anything. And then when that gets published, then suddenly there is an expectation and there is a pressure. And that kind of continues. And I think also, if you want to have kind of longevity in this career, you kind of have to really push yourself for each book to be better. So in fact, it gets more difficult with each book. But that's, in a way, that kind of keeps you on your toes, keeps you motivated. And, it is a job where you spend most of your time on your own. It's not lonely, but it's solitary. And so you have to be kind of a motivated person, really.
How much planning, first of all, do you do before a book? I mean, and is it characters or is it plot? I mean, do you have the person in your head or do you have the story you want to tell?
Yeah. Well, again, everybody works very differently, which is kind of the beauty of it. I've quite a few writer friends who just have an idea, sit down and just let the story go where it takes them. I tried that, it didn't work. So I'm a plotter and a planner. For me, it's always issue driven. So the book that I have coming out now in the summer is about couples therapy, because I'm just kind of interested to see, and it's all different couples at different ages in their life. So there's empty nesters, there's sort of people in their early 40s who have loads of kids and big mortgage, and then there's a kind of a young couple as well. And I kind of become obsessed with a theme or an issue, and then I research it and I try and figure out if I can work a really good, interesting story around it. So for me, it's the idea comes first and then the characters grow. But actually, I don't think any writer, I think people would say this, really knows their characters until they finish the first draft. And that's why the first draft is only the first draft. Because it's only when you get to the end that you really know them. And that's when you go back and you start layering the story. And in fact, their voice might change and you might have to go back and completely change the way they are. So really, the first draft is, to all intents and purposes, like the skeleton of your book.
Yeah. You need quite a lot of stamina for that, don't you? Because, it's a long process from the beginning of the idea, the research, the first draft, and you're only, halfway there at that stage? Less?
Yeah, well, it could depend. Some books I've had to do 10 drafts, some books I've had to do maybe 4. But that's why the editorial process and the relationship with your editor is very important. And it is almost like a marriage because, I always say, and I think this is very true, your editor should be smarter than you and somebody that you respect. So I've worked with Rachel now on, I think, 10 of my books. So we have a shorthand. Like, I'm not precious. So she just says it like it is. And if I agree with her, I agree with her. And if I don't, I don't. At the end of the day, it's my name on the book, so I have to agree. Yeah. But 99% of the time I do agree with her because you just know when things aren't quite working. And sometimes you just need somebody else to point it out because it is very hard to be, objective about your own work. So you just need somebody else to kind of...
And you're immersed in it, so it's very hard to see the wood from the trees when you're right in the middle of it.
Yeah. And often scenes or different, subplots that you think are great end up just coming out because sometimes when you're too in love with something, it just doesn't work. So that's kind of interesting as well. Sometimes the hardest chapters that you've written that you're not sure about can often be the best. So it's funny. I'm constantly learning. I've learned a lot, but I am still constantly learning. Yeah.
Take us back to your first book, which was published when? How long ago now?
Nearly 20 years.
Right. How did that, I know your mother was a writer, so I know you had a familiarity with the process, I guess, that maybe a lot of other people wouldn't. But how did it feel when you realised that was going to be published and that you were going to see your book with your name in the window of a bookshop?
Amazing, because I had written 2 prior novels that had been turned down by everybody all over the world. This was back in the day, pre-email of self-addressed envelopes. So you were spending a lot of money on stamps and then you're rejecting yourself because your self-addressed envelope in your handwriting is coming back with rejection letters. So I could have wallpapered my apartment with them. I was rejected by everybody. So, but there was this kind of something in me that wouldn't give up. I just loved it, even though I clearly wasn't very good at it. I loved it. And then it was The Baby Trail, which was about a couple experiencing infertility, which I was experiencing in my own life. And that was the one that got published. And I think, again, it was the theme. People hadn't really written that much about infertility and timing. And I just think, in a way, I'm really glad it happened to me because I wouldn't have written the book otherwise. And I've also been blessed with 3 children. So I have had my happy ending. So it's easy for me to say that, and I do appreciate that. But I think I got a lot of angst out writing that book. So it was an amazing feeling. Yeah, amazing.
But you also, like, there is a business element to writing something that is going to sell, obviously.
Yeah, there is. I mean, I think that's why, you know, when people are sort of starting out, they often ask me for advice, and my advice would be to get an agent, because anybody I know who has kind of tried to do it all themselves, it takes up a lot of your time and energy, and I think that is better spent being creative, because that's your forte. You constantly have discussions with your agent about deals, and you know, there's a lot of back and forth. But the big change for me has been the explosion of social media, because when I started, it was just you wrote your book, you did your TV interviews, you did your media, radio, newspaper interviews, and that was it. And now you kind of have to be, you know, you have to have a profile on social media, and that eats into a lot of your time. You have to think about that. That's like a little business in itself, and you're constantly trying to think of interesting content and all that kind of stuff. So that, in a way, has definitely added an extra layer to what we do. And I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm not sure. I haven't quite figured it out yet. So I don't know.
You talked about, you know, that it's one thing getting published once, which is a huge deal. I mean, it is very difficult to get published. How do you keep, to use our hashtag, how do you keep making it happen? You know, you do it once, and then you've got to keep doing it again and again.
Yeah, it's amazing, because I do think everybody has a book in them. I don't think necessarily a bestseller, but I think people have a story to tell. Everybody has a story to tell. But a lot of people would only have one book in them. When I started out, like, this was it for me. This is a compulsion for me, and I really wanted it to be my career. Now, again, I've been lucky, but longevity was always kind of my goal, and I think that, you know, I hope that I can do this for the rest of my life. And so, again, that requires, you know, work and steeliness, and, you know, you're going to get rejected. Yeah. Not everyone's going to like your book, and you're only as good as your last book. So that keeps you on your toes, and you know that you constantly have to write better, and also be aware of what's going on in the world around you. You know, keep kind of up to date and stuff. But at the end of the day, you have to write what you're passionate about, and it's a business. So if my next book tanks, I might be out of contract. So you are running your own business. You are very much, you know, you're the master of your own destiny, but also you just never know what's going to work and what's not going to work. And at the end of the day, I've been with Penguin Publishing since the beginning, and they've been fantastic, but it's a business. So if my books start not working, I'll be out of contract. So that's, I try not to think about that too much, because it's quite nerve-wracking, but, you know, being self-employed, there is always that fear, but in a way, I think that has pushed me to be better and to work harder. So that's why I think maybe longevity has so far worked. But it is something that you really need to devote yourself to if you want to have a career in it. The passion to write, I just couldn't ignore it. I just had to write. Now, I was working full time, though. I would not give up. Do not give up your job until you are sure that your passion is actually going to be able to pay your bills. Yeah, but I think confidence comes with experience. You know, I mean, for the first 4 books, I was too embarrassed to say I was a writer, and people used to ask me what I did. I just go red. I'd sort of mutter that I was a writer. I remember my husband going, like, "What is wrong with you? Like, say it." And I felt I hadn't earned the right to say I was a writer until my 5th book.
Wow.
I don't know. I felt okay. Yeah, no, I am. I am doing.
That's real imposter syndrome. That is. Isn't it?
Yeah. It's true, and I just didn't feel that I belonged. I suppose in a way I had to prove myself, and that's about sort of longevity, and is this really what I am? Yeah. And it took me. So that was like for 5 years, to actually be able to say that I was a writer without feeling embarrassed.
Yeah. I know you're, along with Ricochet, you're an ambassador for the Eason Book Club. So have you any current recommendation that you could give to us that might be a good spring read? Well, we are announcing our spring selection on Monday, so I can't actually say anything yet. But what I've noticed, I did an interview on the Claire Byrne show, and we were talking about reading, and I just put something up on my Facebook page, and I just said, you know, what's everybody looking for at the moment? And I'd say 99% of the responses were comfort reads. People don't want to have to work too hard at the moment. We're all tired and frazzled and just trying to keep going. So comfort reads, I think, is what people are looking for. And that can be rereading the classics. Rick and I often try and,
you know, if we like the book enough, have a debut writer in each season's choices. So we have 8 choices every season, and that's been a joy. I mean, I get to read for a kind of a side job, and it's amazing. And you know, I love books, we love writers, and we love promoting them. So that's been a real joy. But as I say, we're always choosing Irish writers because there's just so much talent here.
Yeah, we are lucky in that respect. We are definitely lucky. Your next book is out in July. Tell us a little bit of what we can expect and what it's called.
Yeah, so I didn't have a book out last year, so I took time with this book. It's called About Us, and it's about 3 couples who end up going to the same couples therapist for different reasons. So there's empty nest syndromers. He's about to retire, and she has given up her life for her kids, and she just feels like, is this it? Then there's a couple in their early 40s, Alice and Neil, and he's having a midlife crisis, and she is not enjoying full-time motherhood at all, and she feels lost and a failure and useless, and she hasn't lost her baby weight, and you know, their sex life is not happening, and so they're kind of in a bad place. And then there's a young couple, and she has kind of a physical problem which stems from her childhood, and they go to couples therapy as well. So it's just about relationships, because I think relationships are really kind of what makes the world go round. And it's also about, within the therapy that they go to, there's sex therapy. And I think whether you're having loads, none, don't want it, don't like it, aren't interested, that also is a part of a relationship. And so it's just lots of different things, but really it's about love and how relationships are really 2 different, damaged, quirky people just trying to make it work. You know, and it's not necessarily a happy ending for everyone, so we'll see.
Good. Yeah. That sounds like a nice book to jump into. I always think there is a degree of comfort in other people's relationship discomfort.
Well, I learned a lot researching, I can tell you.
Exactly. Yeah. You know, to know that everybody's dealing with whatever they're dealing with. Sinead, thank you so much for coming along today and sharing all that. I really enjoyed our chat, and the best of luck with the new book in July. I'm sure it'll be another bestseller.
Thank you.
On behalf of RBK Chartered Accountants, we're delighted as a sponsor of the Chamber and also as a co-sponsor of today's event to be associated with International Women's Day. RBK, as a firm of chartered accountants and a professional services firm, employ over 200 people through our 3 offices in Ireland. I'm delighted to say that our gender mix is almost 50-50. Indeed, in our recent intake of graduates in September, we employed more female than male for the first time in our history. One of our goals as an employer is to make sure that every individual, male or female, achieves their personal potential. And COVID has been a challenge for all of us and has changed the way we all have worked, both over the last 12 months and probably into the future. And in dealing with that, we've introduced a number of initiatives which our staff have appreciated greatly, in terms of flexible working, allowing for homeschooling, and having proper family time. And we feel that some of these initiatives that have been introduced will work into the future post-COVID as we move on to a better future. Once again, and to conclude, we are delighted to be associated with International Women's Business Day and the Women in Business Alliance associated with the Chamber. Thank you very much.
Dee Featherstone, you are more than welcome here today.
Thank you very much.
You are some woman for one woman. Organiser of the Stripping,
yep.
Which not only has raised almost 900,000 for the Children's Cancer Charity in Leeds Pink Tie, but you've also achieved 2 Guinness World Records, not 1, but 2.
Exactly.
I want you to start, if you don't mind, by telling us your story and what motivated you to organise the Stripping Day.
Okay, well, it all started nearly 8 years ago now. I was actually diagnosed with breast cancer. And after a year of treatment, and just after my mastectomy, actually, I just wanted to do a charity event. And it sounds very selfish, it probably wasn't even for the charity. I wanted to do something fun. And raising money was a great part of it. So then all of a sudden, just one night, I thought to myself, what could we do that was a bit different? And then, I don't know where it came from. I'd had maybe 2 glasses of wine, and I was getting a bit inspired. And I said, how about a strip, like a skinny dipping? And then I private messaged maybe 15 or 20 people. And they were just like, to get them to do it, they're just like, absolutely no way, no way. And I was, listen, I'm bald and I've got 1 boob. They're like, oh, right, okay, go on, put me down. Exactly. And that's where it all started. There was 40 of us on that day down in Mahermore Beach in Wicklow. That year it was so good, I said, I have to do this every year. It sort of rolled on, and then we had 200 one year, the year before our first world record. And then I was sitting at home thinking, I might look up that record, and it was 800. And I'm thinking, if we had 200 last year, they just have to bring 4 people. And then the mind went on again and applied for the world record. And then that beautiful day, which was 27 degrees and sunny in Wicklow, 2,505 of us ran into the Irish Sea. It was absolutely, you could hear us, I swear, from Holyhead, the screams of us. It was just the most magical day ever.
How does that feel as the person who organised this from the start, to have that number of people and that joy?
The day itself was amazing, and I would honestly say I was in a total daze, because I suppose, like, I couldn't move for people hugging me and kissing me and thanking me. And
do you remember those days?
Oh yeah, exactly. Oh, they were great. I can't wait for it again.
Yeah.
And then one of my kids, she would have been 16 at the time, and she sort of held my hand, because you have to sort of go down like a windy road to get onto the beach. And all she kept saying was like, "Mammy, you created this." I'm just like, yeah. And usually, like, you have your clothes on till you get down.
Yeah.
They were all naked already. They were all singing. They were just, and when they saw me walking down, I got a big Mexican wave. Oh my God, it was just the most, and my friend Rose had come from Australia to do it. It was just amazing. And then you're in this sea of water, and it's chock-a-block with women, naked women. And they're hugging, like, you're hugging and kissing people that you don't know who they are. And it wasn't just me, it was everyone. It was this jubilation. It was just, like, it was like everything that was bothering you, just, that went off with your clothes that day. And it wasn't nothing to do with the nakedness. It was just the shedding of everything, the shedding of maybe inhibitions, you know, shedding of body image, you know, and people will always say, oh, you know, I'm too big to do that, or I'm too skinny to do that. And they're looking around the beach and nobody gives a hoot on the day, like, couldn't care less what anyone. We did people, lady went in a wheelchair. We actually had 2 ladies' ashes went in after we all went in that had done the dips previously. So it was a very, very special day.
And very emotional, I would say.
It was very emotional, I think, like the people that were sort of being, oh, they didn't really want to do it. They were the people after 2 hours who saying, like, you know, can you actually put your clothes on now? You know, we have to leave. And that to me was like just the buzz to see everybody, like, all the women were just in brilliant form.
I haven't obviously done it myself, but I know from other women who I know who have taken part in it, that it's what you said, it's that freedom, and it's the leaving behind inhibitions that many women have every single day about how they look and about their size, or about, you know, whatever other body issues that they have.
There's so many of them, and especially after the big one, so many people contacted me afterwards. And that to me was just the best ever. And they will say, my God, that changed my life. Another lady rang me. She'd lost her husband 10 years ago to cancer. And she said, for 10 years, she said, I haven't done anything. And she goes, I went home tonight and I joined an online dating, and I have a coffee date on Tuesday. And she said, I just wanted to thank you. And it was all about people moving on, I think, in their lives as well. It just gave you that something. You just felt very inner power afterwards.
And what you did in doing that was not just raise money, which was the original, I guess, idea, is to raise some money, but also raised women's expectations and raised women's confidence, which you probably hadn't anticipated that as an effect.
I hadn't anticipated, and then all of a sudden, for every year that it went on, my whole thing was how women felt about it. That's all I cared about. That was my buzz. Like, those people make friends with each other, and they've gone on holidays every year since. Like, it's just that camaraderie, and it's lifting women, and that's what I get out of it.
I'm just thinking as you're talking to me, I don't know if I'm sure you remember the women belonging to the Mothers Union or whatever it was, or the other group in England who did the calendar, and then there was the movie Calendar Girls. Yeah. There's a much better movie in what you're doing.
Absolutely.
You need to batten down those rights.
Oh, you never know what might be coming in the next year or two.
Oh, excellent, excellent. Well, good.
I'll keep you posted.
Do keep me posted. Yeah, absolutely keep me posted. Yeah. So you said it was 10 years ago you did the first one, is that right?
Yeah, right. 8 years ago.
8 years ago. Yeah. So the last year just gone, you obviously couldn't do the strip and dip. And that would have been, most women or most people would have said, oh, well, I can't do it this year, so I'll take a rest and I won't do it this year. We'll come back next year.
It did cross my mind.
But not you.
No.
Tell us what you did.
I think another part of it was that I wanted to do something because, like, our dip was usually in June, so it was March when lockdown happened. I think by June, no way I wanted to cancel it. And people kept saying, "What do you think?" And then, then I knew it wasn't going to happen. And the girls were so disappointed because it's become everyone's weekend away. We just wanted to do something, and because we were at that stage in lockdown where people could have, I think, up to 6 people in their house. So that's when I came up with the idea of a virtual dip. So basically, I got onto the Guinness World Records people and I said, listen, is there any chance? And I had to make it something, I think we needed another world record, especially because it was lockdown. And that's what, we went for that. And it was basically, there was people all over Ireland, there was all over the world actually, a few in Australia, New York. Like one girl had a paddling pool in her actual kitchen. And it was just, you had to take a picture of you in a body of water. And you could have your clothes on. But a lot of women went over, say, to their neighbour's back garden. So, and it was actually a really nice day as well. And it just, everyone kept saying that was the best day ever. And they hadn't done nothing at all in lockdown. And this was just great. And we got another world record and we raised €105,000 as well. So we were delighted with it in the end. And we got another world record. And it came in the post and it was all celebration. It was all over Facebook. And the girls are just like, oh my God, I've got 2 world records now. It's just great.
Would you be a bit addicted to the old world records now?
Thinking about it, we won this year. I think I might go for the hat trick and leave it there. I don't have enough room on my walls.
Yeah, exactly, all the trophies. But, you know, I know in a previous life I worked in fundraising and, you know, for all the fact that what you've done is so wonderful and, you know, had so much positive energy and everything, there is a huge amount of hard work in making something like that happen.
There is, and the bigger it gets, I suppose, it's the harder. And I could see 1 or 2 years that maybe I didn't work as hard as I usually did. And you can see it, and it's all about egging people on, giving people ideas of maybe how to fundraise better. It was all done, obviously, online. Yeah. And is getting, you know, ideas, you know, a few kids were going around the neighbourhoods. And it was all about just keeping the momentum going. And once you keep the momentum going, and Aveen's Pink Tie is just such a wonderful charity. And
tell us a little bit about Aveen's Pink Tie.
Yeah, so it's a National Cancer Childhood Charity. And 97% of all proceeds go directly to the families who are going through the horrifics of childhood cancer. So that was very important to me as well. I didn't want to pay somebody's big salary. I wanted anything I raised to go somewhere. And every year we've done it for Aveen's Pink Tie. And I know the people involved in Aveen's Pink Tie, they're just like, they're earth angels. What they do is incredible. And it's not research. It's like literally somebody might be up in Donegal and all of a sudden, oh my God, there's only one childhood cancer, which is in Dublin, the hospital, and they give practical support to those people. So they might get stuck, like, you know, a diagnosis, one child, 2 parents, they can't work anymore. One parent definitely can't work. You know, and so that's all the practical support they give to the families. And that was very important. And it was cancer related. That was very close to my heart as well. So and I suppose after all the fundraising as well is, it was very important after we did this, we raised over $500,000 on the largest skinny dip, and then it was another 100 last year. But it was very important to me to put the money towards something. So our money was put towards building a house or buying a house in Crumlin.
So you have a specific kind of target every year of what you want?
Yeah, I sort of felt after a few years it was time to get a target because people, like, you know, because it was so much money. And it was just one of the proudest days. And it's called Aveen's Lighthouse. And it's just around the corner from Crumlin Hospital.
And it's a house?
It's a house, yeah. And it's for the families of somebody staying who their kids have cancer, and the child can come home and have their house. So there'll be only one family at a time in this house, and it's all decked out for the child's need and the parents' needs, and it's around the corner, and that's free to any child or any family that
and that must make a huge difference too.
It's a huge difference, and it was really good, I think, to see something positive. And the girls were going by in the bus, taking pictures of it, and goes, "Oh, you know, I helped. I helped that brick, or a few bricks there belonging to me." And it was great for the charity as well. It was just great to have that.
And this might be an unfair question, but are you planning a virtual event again for this year?
No.
No?
No. I think I've had, the virtual was a once-off. And
yeah.
I think everyone's just starting to get to that stage where they want. So I sort of have a few ideas in mind. I've had a few dates in mind. I've had to cancel one already. But we will definitely have something this year. Absolutely, 100%.
Can I ask you then, how do you keep yourself motivated to keep this work going?
This is my unpaid job, and this is my passion. This is what I like to do. Like, I could spend 40 hours a week on this if I could afford it. And it's just my passion, and once I get into it and I get the girls involved, and everyone loves it so much, and we do so much good as well. So that's definitely what keeps me going all the time, is the women. It's all about the women.
I don't know if it led directly, but the Strip and Dip then led to the Sea of Change choir.
Yes, yeah.
Which is an amazing story. So tell us, first of all, how did that start? How did that
So
come
that
about?
started after the world's largest skinny dip. I got a call from a girl called Carla in Ireland's Got Talent. And she said, oh, could you give me a ring? I was like, what do they want with me? So of course I rang. And she goes, oh, I was wondering if there was any chance that she'd heard all about the skinny dip, and was there any chance you could put an act together? And I'm like, what? Yeah. Couldn't think of anything. And then she said, oh, maybe like a calendar girl or something like that. And I'm like, oh, I don't really like the sound of that. And in the end, we had done this song, This Is Me, at one of our dips. And it was because, you know, you're braved, you're bruised, you're battle scars. And I said, if you let us sing this song, I'll get a choir together. And she goes, oh, no, you can't. It was done last year. And I said, well, I'm not doing anything else. I was kind of, and she kept calling me back and calling me, would you not try this? No, no, no. So in the end, she says, okay, you can do it.
You ground her down.
Yeah, I did. Yeah,
yourself.
Carla. She's a lovely girl. And then, so 40 of us, and then it was Ian Brabazon was from the choir, and a friend of mine, Leslie, was involved in it. We were managing all this. 40 women, 45 of us. 20 were picked out, 20 say personal friends. 20 were picked out of a hat. Maybe a few dodgy ones were picked out of the hat by my children.
Yeah. Were any of them road tested for their voices?
No. Doesn't make any difference if you can sing or not. And that's what Ian's, because I asked him, how many would we need? He goes, well, he said, because we don't know if they can sing or not, we have to get over 40. So that was just 45 we got. Didn't care whether you could sing. No road testing, no audition. And we got together and we sang that This Is Me on Ireland's Got Talent. And we got the golden buzzer from Denise Van Outen.
Very good.
Absolutely fabulous. And we did a little strip on stage to show off well, we didn't show off everything, but it was like going with the song Brave, Bruise, Our Scars. And the 6 girls in the front who'd had breast cancer, we did a little strip at the end with feathers and just celebrating, you know, this is up, and got a standing ovation. Yeah.
I mean, it's one thing doing it on a beach that's closed with a whole load of women.
Yeah,
it's another thing doing it with feathers on a stage.
And the worst part was because it was actually recorded, so you never saw it until the day. And we all went to a big pub to watch it. And then you're seeing yourself at every angle. You're like, oh my God. But it was great. And that led to so the choir just went from strength to strength. We've been on the late as part of the service night that they had. We've been, you know, in the Shelburne singing the Christmas lights. We've been in the National Concert Hall. And this is all these women that really just
became in a choir by accident.
Exactly. And half of us, we're nearly becoming known as the cancer choir, because half of the people in the choir have cancer. Right. So, and we just get up and do our things. And people love us because we're just us. And, you know, like we'll never win an award for our voices, but for our personalities, we definitely would.
And tell me what your recent adventures with the choir.
Yeah, it was great. So last year I got a call from a girl Katie Owens, over in the European Commission. And she asked would I be interested in going to a cancer conference. And I was like, yeah, okay, why not, in Brussels, yeah. And then I had told her about the choir and stuff like that. She had found me through the Strip and Dip. Yeah. And then I told her about the choir, and I said, she goes, oh, we'd love to have you all over, but obviously we couldn't afford it. And then I said, well, could I bring maybe a few people? And she goes, yeah, okay. So then every day it was like, I have 5, is that okay? That's fine, Dee. I have 10, I have 20. And then in the end, the whole choir went over. So we were in the plenary room in the European Commission, and they'd asked us to do a video for them. Yeah. So the video started, everyone was sitting down, we were all sitting down, and they started singing. And when it started singing on the video, we all stood up and sang, and it was just absolutely incredible. Standing ovation for 5 minutes. You know, the European, Ursula was there, Mairead McGuinness, Francis, Ursula, my mate Ursula. We're like that.
Yes. You and Ursula.
Yeah, exactly. And it was just incredible. And then they contacted us again this year. Obviously, we couldn't do it, but they want to know would we do a song. So they were launching the European Beating Cancer Plan. So I got in touch with Pete Cunha, who does that song, Things Can Only Get Better. You know, that really big hit that everyone used to dance to. And he said, yeah, go ahead. And so we did that virtually. We did a version of this song and a video and they played that in the European Commission on World Cancer Day to launch the actual plan. So it was incredible. That was our big thing that we did this year.
If people want to stay in touch and maybe hear about what your plans are, which I believe, you know, you're still obviously formulating and it'll depend on where we're at for later this year. Is there a website or that they can go to for the Strip and Dip to keep up to date?
Yes, absolutely. A lot of it would be on, there's a website, is stripanddip.ie, and the most information will be there. Or if you just go onto Facebook for Sea of Change Choir, I'm always contactable by both of those places there if anyone wants to have any information. And we'll start putting information up maybe early summer about what our plans are for this year.
Super, I can't wait to hear them. Dee, on behalf of all of those who you've helped, like both the children's cancer charity, Aileen's Pink Tie, the house in Crumlin, and all of the women who have got obviously so much from being a part of the Strip and Dip, I want thank you, because you know, it's one thing to do work, you know, that's important and that's groundbreaking. It's another thing to undertake these kind of things voluntarily. And the world is made so much better by people like you. It's such a strong determination and a steely woman underneath it all. So thank you, and thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to have a chat with you, Barbara. It was lovely to meet you.
Yeah, and lovely to meet you too. Thank you so much.
Okay, bye-bye.
As President of the Dlr-Wiba Chamber of Commerce, I just wanted to extend to you a very warm welcome to our Wiba event celebrating International Women's Day.
And our final guest today is Dr. Lolly Mancy, who is an academic lecturer, a trainer and social reformer. Lolly trained in cultural anthropology and is an expert in rites of passage. She's worked at Trinity College, at UCD, Irish Aid, Ruhama and other global organisations. Lolly's passions are storytelling, learning and social justice. Lolly, you're very welcome. Thank you for joining us today. That's some CV. Can you start by giving us a brief outline of your career journey to date?
Yeah, there was no plan. There was no trajectory, and I am the embodiment of a squiggle career, and I'll talk to you more about what that is. A career that comes from multiple different avenues where you try on different things at different times, and then you realize that actually the sum of all your experiences can lead you into somewhere quite interesting. But at the time I moved to Ireland, I was 30 and I didn't know what I wanted to do. I spent a long time traveling, I was waitressing, working odd jobs. And then when I got to 37, I was like, it's time to get serious. I don't want to be the oldest waitress in Dublin. So I went back to college, I started a PhD. I got pregnant at the same time. So then I was raising a baby, doing a PhD and working multiple jobs to fund myself through all of that. That took 9 short years. And then at the end of that, we were in a global recession, which was marvelous. So then, of course, there was no work after all of that. And I couldn't imagine what I'd done it all for, but doing a PhD is a key to a door for lecturing at university, which is what I'd always wanted to do, and where I thought my major skill set lay. At the time, there was this mass exodus, and I was looking at jobs in Canada and all over the place. And then a small seed of an idea was planted. It was the year before the same-sex referendum, and I just thought, well, there's no work, so you know, maybe I could try what at the time I was calling a nixer or a hobby, just make a little bit of money, and desperately needed to. And so I had the idea for a small business based on equality in the wedding business because of the same-sex referendum coming up. And people were saying, I was doing research in UCD for that, for the Department of Social Justice. And people were saying to me things like, there's no viable alternative, there's the church or the registry office, where's the in-between place? And I just thought, well, that you're exactly right, where is the place? And also, where is the place you can go if you're gay and religious? Who does that ceremony, you know? And where, you know, what about if you don't want a philosophy put into the heart of your ceremony? What if you don't ascribe to anything, or you don't know what you want? What if you just want your story, your journey, your love story? And from that thought, seed was planted and a business came out. It wasn't a learning curve. It was like a rocket straight up. I knew nothing about business. So I learned everything on the job. And lo and behold, there was a massive appetite in Ireland for what I was suggesting.
So you were providing celebrants, were you?
At the time, no, at the time I was doing weddings, so I just appointed myself. My background's rituals, so I just appointed myself and wrote them myself and brought in a couple of friends that were actors. And then realised so quickly that I was in Northern Donegal down to West Cork and across that there's no way feasibly I could do all of this. So then I decided to set up a training college for celebrants, and that has been incredibly successful.
Excellent. What's that company called?
The Irish Institute of Celebrants.
Fabulous. Excellent, excellent. You mentioned rites of passage there, which fascinates me because, and you also mentioned how Ireland has changed in that, you know, in the last 50 years, 50 years ago, we were a very Catholic country, and I'm sure like 90 whatever % of marriages were conducted in a church, and that is no longer the case. And I think there are a cohort of people outside of weddings who are missing the rites of passage that the church traditionally provided us. Are these rites of passage, these life markers, I mean, a wedding is probably a big one, but there are other ones as well. Yeah. Are they important to us as individuals?
Fundamentally important. And what we're seeing at the moment is the loss of that. So at the moment we have very few funerals taking place, very few weddings taking place, of course. That whole business is furloughed, and hopefully the next year will be the biggest wedding year anyone's ever seen, because there's 2 years worth of weddings being crammed into one. You know, there's no season anymore, it's just all being crammed in. So hopefully that will help those in hospitality and the wedding industry. But yeah, we're very quintessentially different in Ireland from other countries. When they become more secular, they abandon religion, they move away, the marriage rate drops. We've gone the other way. Marriage has never been more popular. And the same now, people are craving for alternatives. So if you have a class of children going through confirmation or communion, what do the other children do? You know, so now people are saying, well, we'll have something and we'll call it a white party, or, you know, we'll just have a celebration, and just, so everyone gets to be part of something, and it's that inclusiveness. So I suppose the avenues that I've moved into in business have been those avenues. Not only weddings, but vow renewals are very popular. And who knew older Irish men were so romantic? They're booking surprise wedding and vow renewals for their wives as anniversary presents at 30, 40, 50 years. My advice to them, I always say, is tell her she's going somewhere special, so she doesn't just wear her jeans when she gets this big surprise party, but she thinks she's going to an anniversary party, and actually they would be working behind the scenes on beautiful words to renew your vows. And I really think that's because the popularity of that, it is growing exponentially at the moment. The reason for that is people are seeing weddings done in a much more relaxed, humorous, gentle style. And so less dogmatic and less formal. And they're thinking, I would have loved that, but I only had the church. And so now they're partaking in that as well.
And you can really inject personality into them as well, I suppose. You know, it's not a one-size-fits-all any longer.
I had one last year. Last year's gone. The year before. Last year, we forget about last year.
Didn't happen.
I had one the year before last, where it was a 50-year wedding anniversary. The gentleman had dementia, and he was in his 70s, and his wife had said, I want to do this now. Well, I know he's still present, he's still here. And she walked in, it was at the Meeting of the Waters, so beautiful down Navoka. She walked in the wedding dress she'd had 50 years before. And I could see from his face, he saw her 50 years previous.
Your other passion is storytelling, which is something I share with you, and I think is something when it comes to women, that is particularly important, because I think traditionally women have been very good at sharing our stories amongst ourselves, but not so good at taking the stories to a wider audience. Yeah. So tell us, why is storytelling important in a business sense?
Well, every brand is trying to tell its story to connect you to it. That's the first thing, you know. So a brand would have core values, and they would say, okay, if our core values, how do we get our customers to relate to those core values? We tell the story of who we are. And all businesses now need to tell the story of their origins, how they came to be, what matters to them, because the trend now moving forward, and this is part of the legacy of COVID, is the fact that we're only tending to buy from companies. Well, I know, so there's a kind of a backlash against the whole sort of Amazon side of things. We're tending to buy from companies now that we feel are authentic. And so they need to tell us their story in order for us to be authentic. But storytelling is the way we communicated around the fire in sort of, our primary days, thousands of years ago. So it's the way that we connect. And there's a disjuncture when you ask people. I was actually teaching a storytelling class last night on Zoom. And when you ask people to tell a story, just as you and I are chatting, it comes very informally and naturally. And then there's a disjuncture when you try to write it. So this is why businesses need to use more video. They need to use more work of getting the founder stories out there, because in my work at the moment, which is in UCD, I teach innovation and entrepreneurship. The story is everything as the connector to why we would buy from you, or why we trust you, or why we want to engage with you.
Is that at its core kind of anti-globalization?
Absolutely.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And COVID has seen us go back to our communities and our locality and to really make those authentic connections. Because before, a lot of those authentics, I think, were just sort of two-dimensional. We felt them, but they weren't real.
And do you feel, again, it's an impression I have just from my own life and from doing, as you say, ordering when we can't go to shops, ordering online from small businesses, local businesses. And I'm just thinking of things I've bought recently, they've all been from women.
Yeah.
Are women inherently kind of better at this, or is it something that...
The personal touch, yes, I think. In cases of sort of, smaller businesses, they're sending personalized cards, or, they're reaching out to you to thank you for purchasing from them, definitely. But we have a deficit of women in business at the moment, right across the world, but certainly in entrepreneurial ways. And part of my current passion is to try and change that.
Right, that's very interesting. You mentioned that you teach innovation in UCD. So what kind of things are you teaching, and who are you teaching in UCD?
So I've gone from anthropology and social justice into innovation and entrepreneurship, which wouldn't seem like a natural, as I said, quite a squiggle career. Lots of different things have fed into this. The reason being is the Innovation Academy 3 years ago, we're looking for someone that was an entrepreneur and an academic, and believe you me, there's not so many of us. So as a consequence, I would think I was in quite a small pool to start with. But what I did get when I moved into the Innovation Academy was a place to work where your teaching is organic. And so you're changing your teaching as you're going through, which is a very exciting thing. And I have 70 students. I have them for 6-month periods, 2 mornings a week. Prior to COVID, I would have had a lot of returners. That's the name for women that have had a break for at least 4 years and are coming back. And so that was a sort of a different cohort. Now we've got people obviously dramatically from the tourism sector and from hospitality, huge skill sets. And what my task is to say, okay, let's take a snapshot of where you are now with all of the skills that you have. Let's have a look at rebranding yourself in terms of what the new market is looking for. The new market is looking for people that have come through multiple different careers that have different skill sets in different areas. But I've got a couple of statistics here which might surprise you. The majority of people have of at least 2 careers. Here it is, the Future Jobs Summit. Today's worker can expect to have up to 5 careers and 20 different jobs. 68% of professionals feel their skills will be obsolete in the next 5 years. Wow. So as a consequence, those stats are very recent. As a consequence, if I talk about a squiggle career, if you're coming into the Innovation Academy or any course where you're trying to upskill and rebrand yourself, the fact that you've had multiple different incarnations of yourself is an advantage, not a disadvantage. So we reconfigure that. And then I teach people how to get in with a business idea very quickly and go through a process. We call it an agile mindset, a way of doing something where it's not costing you your life savings. It's not going to take you 2 years to test this out. Can you get this idea into the market? Do people really want it? And is it going to work? Because actually, and especially for women, what most of us need is multiple streams of income, multiple revenue streams, not just one. The days of just having one job and relying on that, as we know because of COVID, that's a precarious place to be. So if you can have a couple of different things that you've got, different irons and multiple irons in your fire, as it were, you can actually secure yourself down. And I've seen this be transformatory for women.
That's incredible. So we're really at a changing point.
This is one of the most exciting times. And I know it feels very dark and depressing. Well, today's a beautiful spring day, so we're lucky we've got a bit more spring in our step. But generally, the way we should be thinking is if we've gone back to community values and we've reassessed what it is that we want to do, the way we want to live, we don't want to go back to that rat race that we had before and commuting madness and all of the rest of it. What we would like to do is spend more time with our loved ones, more time with our families, perhaps work in a job where you've got the bills paid, in one capacity, but then everything else comes from the other revenue stream. So that can be anything from, I'm mentoring businesses at the moment from people that have homemade chocolate businesses. I've got another one that is starting a flower company. I've got people that work with social enterprise, some incredible businesses, all the way through to somebody like Paula Rowan, who's a Madonna's glove maker. I'm meeting women all over the world at the moment, and because you're not restricted, I'm meeting incredible Irish women who have gone elsewhere and created businesses. And I would love to join all of the dots and help women understand that there are these role models out there. And actually, the best freedom in life is to make something out of nothing. It's like alchemy. You can take an idea, you can turn that into something. If that something then supports you, and even better, if that something turns a profit so you can do good and give something back, then your life is going to be fulfilled.
The picture you're painting is inherently much more creative and much more, it requires a much higher degree of flexibility, which I think, without being sexist.
We're the ultimate multitaskers.
Exactly.
We can do this stuff with our eyes closed. We just don't always apply it into business. If you ask people to name an entrepreneur, they all say Elon Musk, Richard Branson, Jeff Bezos. You know, there's entrepreneurs everywhere. We just don't accept that label. Or intrapreneurs, people working within jobs where they're doing something. But I'm a huge fan of what I'm calling the side hustle, you know. More of us need more side hustles. And there's nothing as exciting as waking up in the morning and seeing a little bit of extra money in your bank account. And
You're telling me. You're telling me there isn't. And the last question then that I want to ask you, which leads directly from that, and I think is something that a lot of women struggle with, particularly you mentioned the cohort of women who may have taken time out with their families and are going back into the workforce in whatever way, is confidence. Because I think that is something, I mean, you're saying that women don't accept the label of entrepreneur as readily perhaps as men do. How do you instill in the women that you come across in your teaching, how do you instill in them the self-confidence they need in order to make it happen?
We all know that imposter syndrome is a real thing, right? And so, I mean, I remember a story. So I invite entrepreneurs that I meet into the Innovation Academy lessons, into our lectures. And part of the reason for that is I want them to see that everyone is fallible, that we all have struggles, you know, and that being an entrepreneur is a roller coaster, it's undulations, you know, there's highs and there's lows. And if you like, you know, the constant challenge of something, then you really might like this. And I remember interviewing Aoife Lawler from the Fairy Door Company, and her and her husband are in business together. And she told me this story about sitting on a plane going, or she was sitting there going to London. She's on Ryanair. She's so excited. She's going over to talk to a major American company about animating the Fairy Door Company. I mean, huge, huge. She dreamt this up from her kitchen table, did farmers markets, and grew this business into a million euro business and more. And she was sitting there on the plane, and she has her little imposter. I'm sure she won't mind me sharing this. Her little imposter is called Susan. And as she's sitting on the plane's taking off, she's thinking, this is amazing. I can't wait to get to this meeting. I can't believe I'm here. Susan kicks in and says, look at you, think you're so fantastic. And she turned around in real life and said, shut up, Susan, would you? Everyone on the plane just looks at her. But we all have that, you know? And so what you need to do is you need to realize that that's not real. And you can actually silence that. And that comes from years of social conditioning and all sorts of, you know, other areas where we don't build this inner resilience. We would have 100 likes on a picture of Instagram, and we have one person that says something, and we obsess about that one thing, or we get one strange look. We are our own worst enemy in that. We need to overcome that. We need to see that for what it is.
Does that start with our girls, do you think?
Oh, 100%. We've got to raise strong young women that are more robust, you know. So what we call it resilience or robust confidence, but it's the ability to know that this is just a thought. It's not actually real. It's just, it can pass. So you just quieten that down and move that on. And all of us have it. I was sitting in my car earlier going, whew, this is, you know, what's this going to be like today? And I could allow that moment to take all my, you know, I'll call mine Susan too. I could allow Susan to tell me that, you know, I'm not good enough. Or I could just say, shut up. Look at all the things I've achieved. Look at the times I've bounced back. And therefore, I don't need that in my life.
Lolly, that would be a great title for a book. Shut up, Susan. How to get ahead, how women can get ahead and how women can make it happen.
The more people talk about the fact that they have it, the more of us realize that all of us have it, and we can actually just overcome it.
And it is as simple as telling that voice to shut up.
Well, you know, it is as simple as that, but also, you know, if you take stock of all the times, you know, that you've bounced back from something that you never thought, you know, you would be able to. You know, we are incredibly resilient in that aspect. And, you know, we're bouncing back out of this thing with COVID. I've bounced back from the reason I love storytelling. And I'll share this with you. My friend and colleague, Claire Jenkins, a very close friend of mine, said to me at a particularly difficult time in my life, you should tell the story of this. And what had happened was I'd have a very abrupt end to a long relationship of my marriage. And my husband and my best friend had got together. And as a consequence, I felt that pain was mine. But she said, if you tell that story and, you know, you make it entertaining, which sounds strange, but I'm quite darkly funny, or so I'm told, that, you know, you could actually share that, and that actually might be useful for somebody else's life. So 3 months after it happened, my friend entered me for a storytelling competition at the Sugar Club called the Dublin Story Slam. And I thought, well, this might be cathartic, it's like therapy. I'll stand in front of 200 strangers and I'll tell the story about what happened. And I did, and that absolutely changed everything, because that gave me confidence. People came up to me afterwards. That led to me being, a year later, defending my title as story champion, because I think I won just because it was so intense for people. But also, you know, I did put a few unexpected laughs in there. I ended up on the Abbey Theatre stage a year later, in front of 500 strangers, telling another story about what had happened 6 months later, which was my entrance into sort of online dating and the joys of that after 17 years of being with somebody. So, and you know, the unexpected cultural change that had occurred and all of those things. That storytelling led me then into think, well, if I can do that and I can embrace that and I can prove my own resilience, I can probably do anything. You know, and I think that it's more sharing the highs and the lows. And I'm an open book, obviously, you know, but I think that storytelling connects us into our past, into our future. It helps us realize we're all insecure, that we all have worries, but actually we can have good days and we can actually help each other up. And I think that we're only as good as those other people that we lift up. And part of what I do now in my job is to help people, to show them that entrepreneurialism can be transformatory, that it can help lift you up, but we can also help lift each other up into the same way. It's not just about the financial freedom, it's about the confidence that it gives you to hold your head up and say, I've got this far, I should celebrate that.
Well, I'll tell you, you have lifted all of us up today. You're an absolute ray of sunshine, and to have such positivity at a time when I think a lot of people are finding life a little difficult and a little bit of a struggle. And you know, what I'm taking away from what you've said is that this could be a powerful, transformative moment for us all.
The theme of this is make it happen. Who's going to make it? You know, to get all Oprah on you. You know, if not you, then who? If not now, then when? What are we waiting for? I have a beautiful quote from Mary Oliver. I'll just finish with. I just want to make sure that I get it right. She's a poet, and she says, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? And I just think that's it in a nutshell.
That is perfect.
This is not a dress rehearsal. Let's move on.
What are we going to do with that one precious life? Lolly, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been an absolute joy. Thank you.
My pleasure.
We have wonderful women in this county, and it has been such a privilege to listen to the stories of three of the best of them here with you today. So I want to thank so much Sinead Moriarty, Dee Featherston and Dr. Lolly Mancy for being with us. I also want to thank Gabby Mallon, CEO of the Dlr-Wiba Chamber of Commerce, for all her work in putting this event together. And also to Aileen Eglinton of AE Consulting, a powerhouse of a woman who always makes it happen. Thank you also to Airfield House for hosting us in their beautiful venue here in Dundrum.